Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark. I'm Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
How are you doing this evening, Caleb?
I'm doing well. I've had a nice 4-day weekend. Just really relaxed and cleaned up a little bit around the house. But honestly, it's been a pretty lazy weekend, and I have loved it.
That's awesome.
How about yourself?
Well, we were a little late tonight, and that's because I've been sitting in traffic. I had to go pick up my kiddos from the grandparents' house, so we met them halfway, and they're all the way over in Louisiana. So it's a bit of a drive, and traffic was crazy. So, but we are here. We're excited that you have joined us tonight. Let's talk about some news. Um, Not a whole lot going on right now. I hear that Deadpool 3 is slowly starting to move forward again. I
Mm-hmm.
I it's weird because I'll go on the Reddit Marvel spoiler forum just every once in a while to see what's going on. And they talk about upcoming projects that have been leaked, and there's still nothing on the X-Men.
Yeah.
It is dead silent. And I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're waiting for Doctor Strange 2 to drop, and then they're gonna start. It'll be clear what's going on. But every time I see like the list of every rumored project, there is nothing about the mutants other than Deadpool 3. There is nothing going on.
Yeah, it's a little weird just because like they if they're working on something and it hasn't been leaked, that is a miracle because they have not been great about keeping things under
No,
wraps.
the Spider-Man No Way Home stuff was out at least a year before the movie even came out.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I mean, it was everywhere. So the fact that other than rumors of cameos in Doctor Strange 2, there's nothing about X-Men. And it's bizarre because I know Kevin Feige is a big fan of X-Men. Um, so I don't know if it's kind of like, well, we already have all this train in place and we're not ready for that section yet, you know?
Hmm.
We gotta let all this other stuff play out first. But it's just bizarre. Just something to I'll be very curious when Doctor Strange 2 comes out
Right.
to see where we are at that point. Um, so anyhow, all right. So tonight we are going to be talking about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. But before we get started, I'm just going to put this big disclaimer out here. If you like these movies, that is perfectly okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you have an opinion, and we all have different opinions.
Hmm.
Okay. And this live stream is not to try to persuade you that you're wrong, that you don't, like, oh, you shouldn't be liking these movies. This is why, blah blah blah. This is just us having a fun debate. And we disagree quite a bit on these on
Yes.
these movies. Afterwards, Caleb and I will still be friends. So don't take, don't. Everybody on the internet takes things way too personally, and they put you in camps or put you on side stuff. We just like movies. We just like Star Wars, and if we don't think a movie's great, we're gonna tell you why. But again, you're allowed to like this stuff, So tonight, Caleb is going to talk about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, about why it's not so bad, and more importantly, why the Last Jedi might be the best of the bunch. So I'm going
The
to turn it over
yeah.
to Caleb, let him talk, and I'll just say this real quick. Last night I was going to just jot down a couple little notes about why I thought Last Jedi was problematic, like just 3 or 4 notes. I wrote down so much stuff, and then I could not go to sleep. So it's going to be one of those episodes. So just turn it over to Caleb.
All right. So before I get started on The Last Jedi specifically, I'll go ahead and let you know uh, about my experience with Star Wars, like just growing up, as well as kind of like what my favorite is versus what my least favorite is. I actually do have an entire ranking but we don't have to go through that right now. My personal favorite of every Star Wars movie is Return of the Jedi.
Why don't you just, you don't have to go into detail, but why don't you just run
Yeah.
down your ranking and I'll run down mine.
Oh, sure, yeah. Let's see. So we have Return of the Jedi is my number one.
Mm-hmm.
My number two is Revenge of the Sith. There's a lot there for me personally from where I was when I was growing up. Number three is The Last Jedi. Number four is Empire Strikes Back. Number five is actually The Force Awakens. Number six being A New Hope. Number seven is Solo. Number eight being Rogue One. Number nine, I include the Clone Wars movie. Number 10 is Attack of the Clones. Number 11 is Phantom Menace, and then my number 12, it's my least favorite, is The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, so here's mine off the top of my head. I mean, I'm just kind of rallying off how I feel right at the moment. Empire Strikes Back would be number one, then A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, Solo, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, probably Force Awakens, maybe Rise of Skywalker, Phantom Menace, Last Jedi next to last, and then Attack of the Clones is dead last.
Yeah.
So we have very different opinions on these movies.
Yes. And so specifically with the sequel trilogy, I do think the sequel trilogy is problematic.
Yes.
I do agree with that. However, I don't think any of those problems stem from The Last Jedi.
Okay.
I think all of those problems stem from Force Awakens, actually.
Okay.
I
know what you're going to say, but I'm going to let you say it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So J.J. Abrams likes to do this thing called the mystery box. And honestly, I think it's only worked once. J.J. Abrams directed this film called Mission Impossible 3. And the mystery box was they were going after this thing called the White Rabbit. And the thing is we never found out what the White Rabbit was because it's just a MacGuffin.
Right.
You don't need to know what it is. The mystery box wasn't important. Then you get to stuff like Lost and Super 8 and Star Trek and all that. And then the mystery box starts to fall apart there.
The thing about, and I'll defend Lost. Well, that's a different live stream, but Lost is, he said, oh, here's all these mysteries. I don't know the answers to them. Go figure it out. And he just handed it over to the showrunners, and then they had to run with it. And so he sets up mysteries where he does not know the answer to these, and he lets it. He's like, here, I'm going to start this, and then you figure it out. Is how J.J. Abrams usually works. And the more I see of J.J. Abrams, the less impressed I am with him.
No, I am not a J.J. fan at all. Even though Mission Impossible 3 is one of my favorite films, I am not a fan of pretty much anything else. I do like Cloverfield, the Cloverfield series, like not the third one. The third one's pretty horrible, but those first two, I really do like them. But I don't really attribute Cloverfield to him because he just produced them.
I haven't seen the first one. I've seen the one with John Goodman, whichever one that one is.
10 Cloverfield Lane.
I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, I do like that one. So when you get to Star Wars, you get to a point where you're going to set up this mystery. You're going to set up so many mysteries. Who is Rey? What is going on? What's the deal with this lightsaber that's calling out to her? Who's this guy in this Darth Vader style helmet? And then you just kind of like end your movie like the original Star Wars, but you leave all these hanging threads, and then you decide you're just going to pass it off to someone else. I mean, firstly, I don't blame Rian Johnson at all for anything that he did, because it's not like JJ left him with any sort of material to do. He didn't. He just kind of was like, okay, here's everything, go. So when it comes to the sequel trilogy, all of the problems, for me personally, stem from The Force Awakens, even though I do like this film. And here's the thing. I love every Star Wars film. For me, Star Wars is like pizza. Even bad pizza is still better than most foods. For me, even a bad Star Wars film is a movie that I'm going to watch 100 times. I love Star Wars.
So let me just
go ahead.
Counter a couple little things.
Sure.
You could blame J.J. Abrams, you could blame Rian Johnson. I think at the end of the day, it's Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes,
she is the one who, and we've seen this not just on these three, but on other Star Wars movies under her watch. She has very little control over these. She should have had like a showrunner controlling all three of these movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they kind of had that. I think his name's Lawrence Kasdan. He was one of the original writers of like Empire Strikes Back and stuff.
Yes.
And he had like a plot outline for, this is, who Rey's parents were going to be. This is this, this is this, this is this. And then they did not make Rian Johnson stick to that. He kind of just threw it in the trash and went on. And so is that Rian Johnson's fault? Some, but that's more Kathleen Kennedy's fault, that she should say, oh no, we got to get all this concrete. This is where we're going. And she has a famous quote. We're saying, well, this was very difficult to do because we have no source material to draw from. And she was so oblivious to the fact that there were so many novels and comic books and stuff that was laid out that they could have easily adapted and it would have been so much better.
Right. That is one hot take that I have, is that I like Kylo Ren more than Darth Caedus, but I
don't know who Darth Caedus is. So
that's Jason Solo.
Oh, Jason Solo. Yeah. So I bowed out of the Star Wars books around the time Chewbacca died.
Okay.
So I missed most of that stuff. I mean, I've got the character guides where I'll read about like little synopsises about what happened to Jason and Jaina, and if for those who may not have read the books, Jason and Jaina were the twins, the children of Han and Leia in the books, and then they had a third kid that was Anakin.
Yes.
And then Luke and Mara Jade's kid was Ben, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to get way off track here for a minute. I thought that was kind of what they were doing in these movies. Mm-hmm. I thought that Kylo and Rey were going to be siblings. I thought that Kylo turned on Luke at the temple and killed everybody, him and his Knights of Ren. And he told everybody that he killed Rey, like she was like 3 or 4. He said, I killed her. But really, he went and stuck her on that other planet and hid her away.
Mm-hmm.
That would explain why Luke was like, oh my gosh, my niece died. It was my fault. I'm done being a Jedi. That's why Han and Leia's marriage fell apart. It was like, we lost our daughter. Our son turned evil. Like, it fits perfectly. And instead, we just got this other story of... We'll get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about The Force Awakens.
Well, so. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. And so with Force Awakens, you just kind of end it. And then there's the issue of Rey not having a whole lot of proper training with a lightsaber, which honestly, I can bow down to that one. Absolutely. The biggest problem, well, one of the biggest problems with this whole trilogy is the fact that everything takes place within a really fast time frame.
Yeah.
The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, like, they happen back to back. And then
it's like the next day or next week or whatever. Here, this is what's happening now. And it's
Exactly. And then once we get from Last Jedi to Rise of Skywalker, it's only a year. Um, so the in terms of timeline, that's one of the biggest issues is that everything just happens like there's no space in between the movies. I believe in terms of A New Hope to Empire, that was about 3 years, and then
Yeah,
from Empire to Return of the Jedi was about a year.
right.
Then Phantom Menace to Attack the Clones was 10 years, and then the Clone Wars was about 3 years. Uh, so
And
yeah, that
then
was,
I'll just add this. One of the biggest complaints about The Force Awakens, a lot of people enjoy this one, but it is basically beat for beat, almost a complete rehash of A New Hope.
yes, very much so. This is one of my hotter takes. That's actually why I like it more than A New Hope, just a hair. Is because taking originality out of it, I love the visuals of this movie so much. And so if I can watch a great movie with visuals that I enjoy just a little bit more, just a little bit. I'm not saying that this movie looks way better than the original, because if you take history into account, then yes, A New Hope looks fantastic for its time.
Um,
But
yeah,
Force Awakens, I know it's an unpopular opinion, and that's why I like it just a little bit more than A New Hope. And that's
and, and I understand your point. It's like The Fifth Element. It's beautiful to look at, so I will sit there and watch that. All the colors and everything. It's just a gorgeous film, even if I don't think the plot is that great. It's entertaining, but it's
Mhm.
so
Plus, I love the character of Finn more than most people do, which is why it's really his story that breaks my heart with this trilogy.
oh yeah,
But we will get to that. Because even on this poster that you have on the screen, he's got a lightsaber. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
he should have been a Jedi. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so that's kind of my piece on Force Awakens. Is I think that putting JJ in charge and then not forcing any follow through, especially on his part, this trilogy never really had a chance.
No, not unless you had a. I mean, that's kind of what's working for in the favor of Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett is they kind of have showrunners.
Yep.
There's a singular vision they're following. Now there are other people getting involved trying to put in their 2 cents, and that makes things a little rocky sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, it's a cohesive plot, and it makes you want to watch, see what happens next.
What I'm actually really hoping for is now I've always loved the prequel trilogy. I love the sequel trilogy. Like I said, I love Star Wars films. Like I just love watching them. Um, for a lot of people, the Clone Wars kind of fixed the prequel trilogy for people. I guess because you had more time and things were explained. And then you really got to grow and accustomed to these characters. I'm actually wondering if like stuff like the Mandalorian and whatever else they have going is going to do that for the sequel trilogy for people in like 10 years.
It might. Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into that whole rumor debate about the future of Star Wars and the sequel trilogy,
With the
and
timelines and
yeah, that's a different conversation.
yeah. But yeah, so Last Jedi. Uh, Last Jedi is one of my favorite. Let me gush for a little bit, and then
Yeah,
we'll get
no.
into.
Well,
We'll
I'm
get
gonna
into.
let you. I'm gonna let you go over Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and then I'll jump in.
Okay, so I'm gonna gush about Last Jedi for a second. I love Knights of the Old Republic. I love Jedi. I love the mythology. That is why I love Star Wars. That's why I don't like Rogue One as much as most people, because if you take lightsabers out of Star Wars, it's boring to me.
Well, I do another podcast, Louisville's best podcast with my friends, and the debate about Rogue One came up, and I kept saying, they're like, oh, the topic was favorite sci-fi films, and they said Rogue One, and I said it's a third of a great movie. That last third is amazing. The first two thirds are a slog, and that's why I rank it so low on my list. Is if you just shorten that to like a 45-minute movie, I'd say it's one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. So that's my 2 cents on Rogue One. And there's a whole story behind the scenes that they had to bring in another director to direct the last third to fix the movie because they had so many production issues. And
that director was Tony Gilroy, who is the showrunner for Andor, which is why I'm excited for it.
Cool.
But yeah, so like for me, you take lightsabers out of Star Wars, and I don't get the point. Like Rogue One is kind of like a more exciting Star Trek movie to me, and I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So when it comes
Rogue One is more of a war movie than a Star Wars movie.
Very much so. So when it comes to The Last Jedi, first and foremost, the thing that I love is everything that happens on Ahch-To and the just kind of the Rey, Kylo, Luke, Snoke story. I love all of that.
I will tell you my favorite parts of this movie, some of the Luke stuff, but Luke's interactions with Rey and Kylo, all that stuff, and the Snoke throne room battle, that's all awesome. Up until they start fighting over the lightsaber, I'm in to that part of the story. That I will agree that part is pretty great.
So that is me gushing. I know a lot of people have issues with Luke and his characterization. But I mean that's what happens, man. Like even in the books, Luke failed, and he had to own up to those mistakes. I mean, he failed in a very similar way.
If Luke sets up the Jedi Knights and they restore peace to the galaxy, that's a boring story.
Right. Exactly. Now, I know the main problem that people have is that when Luke sees his father, and no, there's still good in him, but then as soon as he starts to sense darkness in his nephew, he's ready to strike him down. I know a lot of people struggle with that. And I have always stood by this. There is a different relationship between a son and father and an uncle and nephew.
Well, and apparently, I have not read this personally, but I heard someone talk about it. In the comic books, they tried to explain that is Snoke amplifying Luke's anxiety, and he's causing all that to play out.
Yeah. I mean, that is absolutely possible. I would buy that a lot.
But the movie doesn't explain that. It's the same thing with Revenge of the Sith, which has its issues, but for the most part, I love that movie. The death of Padme at the end makes zero sense. And one of the theories that I've had that some people buy and some people don't is I think Palpatine is draining the energy out of Padme and putting it into Anakin to keep him alive.
Yes, yeah, and that's one that I agree with, absolutely.
And I think it makes 100% sense, but it's not in the movie,
right? Exactly.
So to me, that's a failure on the movie maker's part to explain this stuff. When I have to come up with a theory on my own to explain something, that is a issue with the movie.
Right, exactly. I mean, and it took them. I'm trying to think how it took them 10 years to explain Sifo Dyas in Clone Wars.
And I still don't think I understand Sifo Dyas because I haven't watched all Clone Wars, but it's these weird things, and I guess Star Wars could get away with it a little bit more because they expect you to know there's going to be a cartoon or there's going to be a comic book or a book somewhere. But when it's a central plot point, you can't just
Yeah.
It's like, say, oh, you should have been playing
Mhm.
Fortnite, or
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll get to that one. That movie I can't defend at all. But yeah, I mean, barring any sort of manipulation, I do think that there is sort of an anxiety feels whenever one feels like darkness in another person. And in fact, we've actually already seen in not Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. I do love all of the Luke and Grogu stuff, but can we agree Luke is not the best master? I can already tell that.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I, it feels like the Jedi failed in the in the prequel era. They failed.
Yes.
And it feels like Luke is now saying, "Oh, I got to take those teachings and continue them on." Instead of learning from them, he's just trying to duplicate them. And it's by making Grogu make a choice, it's kind of like, no, he's too young to make that choice. I understand what you're trying to do, but this doesn't quite make sense.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I'm talking about whenever it comes to like stuff that Filoni and Favreau are doing to kind of make these characters make more sense 30 years later.
But one of my issues though is the Luke in Book of Boba Fett Mandalorian does not feel like the same character at all that we see in Last Jedi. It's like two different characters completely.
Oh, no, absolutely, I agree. But there's also still about 25 years in between. And so
I mean,
other things.
maybe Grogu dies in his arms, and that's why he just becomes this grumpy old man. He's just like,
Maybe.
I had to watch Grogu die. It just
Yeah.
screwed me up.
Exactly. And I'm not using things that don't exist as a defense, but I'm saying that it's already seated there that like Luke is not a great master. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so
100%.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And so that's why him getting ready to strike down his nephew, it bothers me because it is a hero that I grew up with falling to the dark side. But honestly, that's kind of that's kind of
The
the point.
Yeah, the cyclical nature of Star Wars and the themes, and it just kind of keeps repeating. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, it's the same thing of whenever Obi-Wan says to Anakin, only a Sith deals in absolutes, I will do what I must. I love the hypocrisy of only a Sith deals in absolute.
Oh yeah, it's the dumbest thing ever.
Well, that in it itself is an absolute.
Right. And then Yoda turn around saying, do or do not, there is no try, which is an absolute.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And so I kind of view this as the same moment, like between Luke and Ben, the same moment between Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar. Because I say that moment right there, where he says, I will do what I must, that is the moment where Obi-Wan failed Anakin. And so this moment here is the moment where Luke failed Ben.
okay.
And so that's the way I view it. And so as far as I know, that's really the only major issue that people have with the Jedi storyline. I know people were disappointed about Snoke. I wasn't. I thought him dying in this movie was, I was fine with it just because I didn't need them to do the Emperor again. I needed something to change. Things rhyme, but it's not always exact.
So, and I'll just go ahead and interject this here because I don't know if it's fully on my. Well, I think it is on my list. That is part of the failure of this film You know, I'm
Go
just gonna
ahead.
hold that. I'm just gonna. It's because it's a mystery box that Abrams set up, and if he
Mhm.
didn't make such a big deal about it, and then for there to be no payoff in this movie, that is one of my issues. Is everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome that Ray's parents don't matter," or "Oh, it's awesome Snoke doesn't matter." When the first movie makes all those things such a big deal, it does
Mhm.
matter. It's and
Yeah.
you try to turn around and blame the audience, saying, "Oh
Yeah.
well, you should have made a big deal about it." The movies made a big
Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I do think that there is a valid debate between like this the Snoke fans. I actually do really like the fact that in the context of this movie, Ray's parents were nobodies. Just because I like the message that, you know, greatness can come from anywhere. Like we call this the Skywalker saga, but it didn't have to be. You know, Ray,
Well,
not everyone has to be a descendant of somebody.
and the way at the time that I read that scene when he said your parents are nobody, is that her parents were still Han and Leia, and to me they are nobodies. Don't you go seeking them because I hate them. You know, that's the way I read that scene.
Hmm.
So, and just well, I'll go ahead and interject this here. Behind the scenes, they kept changing when they made Force Awakens. Right, the Daisy Ridley said, "Oh, it's obvious to me who my parents are." Because I've seen the scripts and behind the scenes. That was in Force Awakens, and then they changed like 3 or 4 times behind the scenes. They kept changing it because people kept figuring it out. So they
Hmm.
kept changing the clues, changing whatever, trying to say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. She's nobody." The fans hated that. Okay, well now we gotta make her somebody again. From what I understand, the original plan was for her to be Obi-Wan's daughter. That
Yes.
was the original plan, and they kept and they because they didn't want to do Han and Leia because it was too similar to the books about the twins. So they kept changing it around. Uh, the first movie drops heavy hints that it's Luke's daughter because she's playing with the X-wing helmet.
Yep.
Uh, so it was kind of all over the place. Of she's Han and Leia, she's Luke's, she's Obi-Wan's, she's nobody's parent, or her parents were just nobodies, or it's Palpatine. And so for the movie to keep, I don't know,
Uh,
it was a mess behind the
yeah.
scenes because they just kept changing their minds.
So
So
so for me, that adds to the fact that uh, her being nobody's daughter. I like that because they actually in the first movie they also very subtly hinted that she could be Palpatine's daughter. In that first movie, they referenced that because her theme on John Williams' score, it's labeled Ray's theme. If you play it slower and backwards, it's the Emperor's theme from Return of the Jedi.
yeah, I mean they
Uh,
do a lot of hints with the music,
mhm.
and
Yeah. So I like if there's like evidence for if Ray could be this her daughter or Palpatine's daughter or Han's daughter or Luke's daughter, and then it's just nobody. I kind of like that. Like
it,
it almost doesn't matter. I would have liked is if it didn't matter. If it didn't matter whose daughter she was because she is Ray.
the other thing that this movie seemed to be hinting, and I probably would have liked it better, the scene where she is looking through it's like her cave vision or whatever. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, so
Yeah, yeah, the K
uh,
vision with the mirrors.
where there's hundreds of rays, it
It
seemed
clones.
it seemed pretty clear that she was a clone of Palpatine. That Palpatine made a female clone to be his new body. If that would make sense to me, you could have told me that was the end. That was the in Rise of Skywalker. That could have been the revelation, and it would have made more sense than him having. Oh, I have what was it, a son that you didn't know about, and
Mhm.
we hunted him down, and blah blah blah. It. I'm already getting frustrated. Okay, continue, Caleb.
Yeah. All right. So when it comes to the Jedi aspect, I love it. I love the whole everything on Octu. I everything with Luke is heartbreaking, but it's supposed to be. And then everything with Snoke and Rey's parentage and Ben, I love it. I still think to this day, one of the greatest scenes in Star Wars is whenever Luke is explaining the Force. Like the Force just is. The Force surrounds us and binds us. The Force does not belong to the Jedi alone. I love that. Because I've always thought about the Force and Jedi as, it is a sort of religion. And so I think that in the real world, people tend to take hold of their faith, religion, and beliefs and kind of turn it to their own their own gain, when in actuality it just is. And so I've always found, whenever he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's awesome. So when it comes to the Jedi stuff, I love it. Now let's talk about Canto Bight.
Okay.
Which is the part that it's going to be difficult for me to defend. When it comes to Finn, a lot of people say that Finn regressed, and he went through the same character arc in this movie, which is the fact that he is a coward and then he becomes this great resistance hero. That I don't agree with, because I don't think that he got over everything in Force Awakens. Yeah. In Force Awakens, he was just, going to help this great rebellion hero, Han Solo, rescue this pretty girl, Rey. And even whenever he wakes up in The Last Jedi, his first words were, "Where's Rey?" Because that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about the Resistance. He's still the way he is. And so whenever it comes to him being a coward and trying to run away, I totally buy that, because there's nothing in it for him. It's kind of like his story arc is kind of like Han Solo, where he almost seems to regress and go away from the rebellion and Empire Strikes Back, but he's kind of roped back in, and he really doesn't become this great rebellion hero until Return of the Jedi. And so with Finn, it's kind of the same. And so in terms of Finn's character arc regressing, I don't see that. And I think Rose is a fine character, and what happened to Kelly Marie Tran was horrible.
So let me comment on that.
Yeah.
If you do not like a movie, fine, but don't make death threats on people.
Yeah.
leave people alone.
like why do we have to say this? Like, why is this something that has to be said?
Right. I mean, these people, they're either trying to make a good movie, they're trying to make a paycheck, they're just trying to make a living. And a lot of what decisions her character made on screen or whatever has nothing to do with her. That's the writer, the director, the whatever. So it was just awful what happened to her.
Yeah.
If you don't like the character of Rose, fine, but don't take it out on the actress. It's totally uncalled for. All right. I'll get off my soapbox. There we go.
Yeah, no. That is a soapbox that needs to be spoken from. So when it comes to this part of the story, you have them going to this casino planet called Canto Bight to find a code breaker. So that way,
so let me stop you right here.
Okay.
This is one of the biggest missed opportunities in this movie, is when they go into the casino and they're looking for the code breaker. How hard would it have been to have Billy D. Williams be the code breaker at the table, and they overlook him.
Right,
The whole audience would go, "Oh, there's your code breaker," and they just keep walking. And you're like, "No,
right,
it's right there."
right.
I
No,
don't
no,
know
no.
why they did not do that. It would be a great cameo, and then you could, then him showing up in episode 9 makes a little bit more sense. But
Yeah,
just
no, I agree with that. Absolutely. That would have been fun. But yeah, so they go and they find this character, DJ, played by
ugh.
Benicio del Toro.
Do you know what DJ stands for?
No? Disc
Didn't
jockey?
No, it stands for didn't join, because he didn't join the Empire and he didn't join the Rebellion.
Gotcha. I get it. Ha ha.
I love this movie, Caleb. It's a work of art.
Yeah. But yeah, they hold on. So when it comes to this part definitely is problematic.
It gets very preachy about war and
When it gets preachy about war, that's whenever I actually start to dig it again, and I'm kind of upset that they never picked up on it. Because the part that I really do like is whenever, like, and I feel like I kind of wish they had been a little bit more obvious about it, because it really wasn't that obvious. But I really would have liked it if, like, on this casino planet, you had like Imperial officers, First Order officers, and like, New Republic politicians, and they're all commuting.
that would have been interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because when it comes down to it, war is just another form of profit. And I would have been interested to see that sort of corruption.
It would have been interesting to see, like, when they went to someone's office or somewhere at the casino, there's a picture of like Admiral Holdo and Hux or somebody just on the wall, like having a beer together. It'd be like, what is happening?
Right, exactly. And so when it gets preachy is where I think the opportunity really is missed, because I think that's a really fascinating idea. And honestly, I kind of, because I know that Rian Johnson was supposed to have his own trilogy, but at this point, everyone and their mother is supposed to have their own Star Wars trilogy.
Right. I heard the new rumor is Damon Lindelof is supposed to have his own Star Wars movie.
I really hope not, because that's just J.J. Abrams light.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He ruined Prometheus for me.
Yeah.
I love Prometheus, and then Alien Covenant came out.
His Watchmen isn't bad.
Oh, I do love his Watchmen. I do love that show. Yeah. So whenever Rian Johnson was going to have his trilogy, I kind of was.
I think you're cutting out again.
If you could have done something really cool with it.
Okay, hold on, sorry. My headphones cut it out for about 30 seconds there, so I did not hear what you were saying.
Oh, gotcha. Rian Johnson and I obviously agree on Jedi mythology. And so if his trilogy was that, like, let's say it takes place during the Old Republic, but then we also do that, two sides of the same coin war message, I thought that would have been really cool, because I feel like that's what he found the most interesting. And in the same way, a lot of what he says here, he also says in Knives Out.
Yeah. And here's what I'll say about Rian Johnson. I'm not a fan of Last Jedi, but I think if he had his own trilogy set hundreds of years in the future, 100 years in the past, or whatever, with different characters that we have no attachment to, then yeah, it'd probably be a good trilogy. I think people would have probably come around on it. But
oh yeah. Well, because like he did Knives Out, and Looper was great too. Like, people love those movies.
Yeah.
But yes, whenever the only problem that I have with this part of the movie is that I think it starts to drag. I don't have any moral or writing issues per se. I just think this part drags a little bit, and it starts to bore me. And for me, and I've said that, I believe I've said this on stream many times, the greatest cardinal sin that a movie can make for me is that it bores me.
Yeah.
And so I do think that this part starts to drag a little bit.
Okay.
But as far as everything, this is the weakest of the three storylines that are going on in this movie. This is the weakest. Now, moving on to Poe and Leia and Holdo. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. I think Leia flying through space is cool, and I don't care what anyone says.
I will say this. The concept of her doing that, I think is pretty cool. The execution, the way it looked, was not cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
They could have filmed it way better. That's all I'm saying. It could have been. I don't mind her using the Force to pull herself back into the ship. That makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it looked, the way it was shot. It was just kind of like,
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll go ahead and say this. The way this could have ended, and honestly, due to the unfortunate passing of Carrie Fisher shortly after this movie was released. No. Before this movie was released.
Shortly before. They finished filming. They had a whole year before the movie was going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So they had plenty of time to make changes.
Right. I think she should have been the one to make the sacrifice.
Absolutely. And that would have been a really easy change, just to have Laura Dern film a couple more scenes, just CGI her in the seat and end it there. Because you're not going to have her for episode 9 now. And for those who don't know, the big plan was for her to have a big lightsaber fight, so presumably with Kylo Ren. I don't know. But that
yes.
But that was going to be, mother versus son or whatever, to try to convert him back to the light side. That was their big plan going in. And one of my huge issues with this trilogy is I kind of realized it after Force Awakens. I'm like, oh, this was Han's movie for him to die. Next is Luke's movie for him to die. And then it'll be Leia's movie for her to die. Right. And it was kind of like, you don't have to do that. I understand Harrison Ford wanted out. That's fine. There was no reason to kill off Luke. There was absolutely no reason. Especially Mark Hamill's an actor who loves Star Wars. And he would have gladly done many more. So it was, and again, that goes more to Kathleen Kennedy and the stupid decisions her and the story group made.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I definitely agree that it should have been her, and but from their perspective, I definitely see that they're like I'd be leery about changing it as well, just because okay, so this actress dies and then we're gonna kill her on screen too.
Well, there's that, and I think that they were like, oh, we have this amazing scene where Luke hands her the dice, and we're gonna lose that if we kill her off in that scene. We can't do that, and we'll figure it out later. And
so there was definitely I definitely see why it wasn't done as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want there to be any sort of emotional impact to that scene, definitely should have been her. Now, in terms of Holdo, I know a lot of people don't like this character.
Yeah.
The reason people don't like this character is because our viewpoint character doesn't like this character.
Well, there's that, and we have no clue who she is. Who cares if she made a sacrifice? I have no clue who this character is.
Oh no! I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just with the actions that were taken, with this character. Now, honestly, this character probably, I don't know how old Mon Mothma's supposed to be, but
Yeah.
it could have been her.
That would have made more sense. This would be like if you're watching Empire Strikes Back. They're like, we gotta get out of here. All of a sudden, Lobot goes, "I'll sacrifice myself." They're like,
Right.
"Oh, you've been a loyal soldier." Bye. Well, I don't know who Lobot is. I don't care.
Right, right. By the way, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I heard so many people saying that it should have been Admiral Akbar, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I would have cared. Like,
Wow.
I love Star Wars, but like, it's got
I
to be
am
someone.
saving my comments about Admiral Akbar until I have my rebuttal.
I now here's the thing. I do love Admiral Akbar, and he's a cool character, but like, you gotta know why it wouldn't it have been him, because like your general audience honestly would not have cared.
It would have been funny though if like Leia's like, "Don't go, it's a trap," and he goes, "I know." He
Yeah,
just gets on the ship. That would have been
yeah,
great.
yeah. It would have been funny. But yeah. So Poe is our viewpoint character, and our
Yeah.
viewpoint character doesn't like this admiral, and is convinced that this person is making all the wrong decisions and is a traitor.
But
And
this point of the movie turns into a plot from Frasier. Every episode of Frasier is if they would just tell each other what's going on, no, the drama would happen. And that's what's happening. If they would just sit down with Poe and say, "Okay, here's what we're doing. Shut up," they'd be like, "Okay."
but
But no,
here's the
they got drag it out, and it's
but
just
the but from Holdo's perspective, Leia's um command was to demote Poe, who has a history of being a very irresponsible soldier. So from her perspective, I get it. Why would I tell this irresponsible flyboy anything about my plan? He'll just mess it up like he messed up the last plan, because he messed up the last plan. Because they went after the dreadnought for no reason whenever they could have just escaped. So when it comes to Holdo's actions for not telling Poe, I completely get it, because Poe was acting irresponsible the entire movie and did not deserve to know the plan.
okay.
So that is my piece on Holdo. I think the only reason people hate her is because our viewpoint character hates her, even though for the most part, she's from a military perspective, she's right.
Well, that and her pink hair looks stupid.
Pink hair does look stupid. I'll agree with that. the pink hair, it doesn't look great. And so the hope would have been that this would teach Poe a lesson, and he would one day become Admiral Poe Dameron, great Resistance hero. You know,
Yeah.
and so this would have been like another, another character arc for him. This is the beginning of his story, because we didn't really get much of his story in Force Awakens. He was very much just a Wedge character. And in this, we do get more of Poe, and so this is definitely the beginning of his story. So when it comes to the Holdo plot, I don't have a problem with it, just because I know what it's supposed to be doing, and I think it does it rather well.
Okay, I'm letting you lay out your case.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, go ahead, continue laying out your case, and then after we get done talking about Rise of Skywalker, I will.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I will tell you why you're wrong.
Okay, so we're going into Rise of Skywalker next.
Sure, we go ahead and jump to Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. I'm not. This is my least favorite Star Wars movie. I am not the. And this was before I read Colin Trevorrow's script. Even before Colin Trevorrow's script, I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie. I still love it because it's Star Wars, and I'll watch Star Wars all day. but this definitely feels like a knee-jerk reaction to an unpopular movie, and so we
Mhm.
have to do a whole trilogy. People say this feels like two movies in one. I think this feels like three movies in one. I feel like this is a whole trilogy in one movie.
That's how I feel about Last Jedi, but okay. Um, so I will say this: Ryan Johnston, from what I understand, and this could be completely wrong, that this was largely his first draft, and they just shot it for Last Jedi. And Kathleen Kennedy was very hands off with this one. Everybody at Disney was very hands on. There was a lot of chefs in the kitchen trying
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that this was satisfying. They were, and I feel like it failed on many fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will just say this: just ending your movie with just another Emperor fight, another space battle like Return of the Jedi, doesn't feel different. It's just like,
Right,
oh, we're
right.
doing this again. Uh, Ray suddenly having healing powers is kind of weird. It kind of breaks a lot of stuff in Star Wars. Um, and I feel like if this movie really wanted to do something different, and I feel like J.J. Abrams did some of the stuff, and the studio left it all on the cutting room floor
Mm-hmm.
behind his back. There was a lot of weird stuff going on with this movie. I think when you get to Ray confronting Palpatine, if you would have had Palpatine say, the dark side's stronger. I'm going to prove it. And he starts resurrecting all these spirits of the Sith behind him. And you just have this room full of Sith warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And then this ties into the whole Obi-Wan saying, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can imagine. Well, all of a sudden, all the Force ghosts start filling the room. Luke, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, everybody.
Yeah.
And then they just have this huge lightsaber battle. That would have felt like the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You
No,
have
yeah.
the dark side versus the light side, and even the rest of the movie sucked. At least you got that, and then you can have this movie moment where Kylo doesn't know which side to choose, and the Emperor's like, "Well, look, there's Vader," and the red Sith ghost of Vader appears, and all of a sudden it turns blue, it turns into Anakin, and goes to the light side, and then at that moment, Kylo Ren realizes, "Oh, you've been manipulating me. My
Mm-hmm.
grandfather's on that side, not on this side." And that's the moment he would turn on Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
If you had that moment, you had this climatic final battle, it would have felt more like the end of a 9-part saga.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
Instead of her just fighting Palpatine again, it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, and then,
But here's the thing: this time she uses two lightsabers.
well, yeah, that's the other issue with Ray in general. She's kind of like Superwoman. She needs no training, and she
Yeah.
never loses ever
Right,
in
right.
this movie.
Exactly.
Luke lost all the time. Anakin got his arm chopped off twice, three
Mm-hmm.
times, or whatever,
Yeah.
twice. You know, her character really never goes through a journey, and that's more Kathleen Kennedy's interference again of, oh no, you can't do anything to this character. And, I don't want to get too much into that, but there's just, and apparently she felt like the script didn't go further enough. She wanted her to be even more powerful in
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
movie. So
No.
just a mess behind the
Mhm.
scenes.
Yeah, for me, this movie really is because I think the climax really is um, kind of indicative of the whole movie. They could have done all the stuff, but it's not like they had to. This movie really is just kind of the bare minimum.
It's very much, we have to end this. How do we end it? The quickest and easiest way that would be as satisfactory as we can to as many groups as possible
Mhm.
is what it was.
Yeah.
They're like, oh,
Now,
we need a space battle, we need a lightsaber fight, and some adventure. Doesn't really matter.
right. Now there are two things that people tend to rag on that I actually like, but one of them I can't defend because it involves a lot of expanded universe stuff. So there's validity there. Um, I think that Kylo Ren turning back to the light side and everything that happened on the Death Star. I really enjoy all of that. I think that was actually really well done.
I think Kylo Ren's the best part of each trilogy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Those are the parts of the movies I like. Anytime Kylo Ren's doing, I think he gets a little bit too. I know the tantrums and stuff.
I think I like the tantrums. They're kind of funny.
They go a little overboard sometimes, but
I think they're supposed to be funny.
Yeah, it's just hard to take him serious sometimes when it's just like the one in Last Jedi. It's just like, okay.
Yeah. But and the scene with Harrison Ford, and he is not a Force ghost. That is not
he's not.
That is just a representation of Ben coming to terms with what he's done, and I love it. I love it. Oh man, it's great. And then you said something about the Force healing. That and absolutely valid for me. I know when it comes to the expanded universe, every Jedi has a sort of an ability that they really like specialize in, and it's kind of like it's something that they can master very easily without training, because it's just the one power that comes naturally to them.
Mm-hmm.
In Rebels, Ezra being able to speak to and control animals came naturally. In Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis, the Force psychometry, which is him being able to touch stuff and then seeing its history. He wasn't trained in that. It was just kind of, it came naturally to him. So when it comes to this, I can surmise that with Rey, Force healing is the thing that would come naturally to her. Now, your complaint is still valid because that takes a lot of expanded universe reading to know.
Right. And again, the movie's not explaining it. So the movie kind of makes you think, oh, well, all Jedi could do this. Well, why didn't Obi-Wan heal Qui-Gon? Or, you start opening all these little doors.
Exactly.
Same thing with the holdover maneuver. Why don't they just do this all the time? And it's...
So they do explain the holdo maneuver, though.
I know. There's just like, oh, that's a 1 in a million shot. Okay, well,
which I can see, because I mean it was a 1 in a million shot in A New Hope. Like, I can buy a 1 in a million shot.
It feels like they would be trying it all the time. Like, oh well, here's a big ship piloted by a droid. Let's try it again. We're in trouble. I don't know.
Yeah. But no, the holdo maneuver doesn't bother me, because I can buy a 1 in a million shot.
All right, so we agree this movie is trash.
I agree that it is my lead, because I will still watch a Star Wars movie, but yes, this is the one that I can't. This is the one that I can't defend. Okay. Actually, another thing I like. I think that the cinematography of the duels. Of the what is it? The duel between Rey and Kylo Ren, whenever he's on the ship, or when she's on the ship and he's like on the planet, and then it's going back and forth because they're still like connected. That's really cool. That's just a cool scene. I think the one thing that these films got absolutely right was like the actual cinematography of it. The scenery might be a little lacking, and they don't do a whole lot when it comes to aliens. But, I still think one of the most legendary scenes, at least for me, is whenever 2015, I was about 18 or 19 years old, seeing this movie in 3D. I got my Kylo Ren 3D glasses. I still have those. And in 3D, he is holding that laser bolt in midair. And it is so cool. So when it comes to this trilogy, I think that they get the imagery right for the most part.
Okay. So I'm going to give my counter argument, because we've been going a little long here.
I can talk about Star Wars for hours. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. So I'll just give my thoughts on Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker real quick. Force Awakens, when it came out, I was kind of like, "Oh, cool, new Star Wars," and I wasn't like super excited about it. And I saw it, and I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." It wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, you have," the whole movie. I'm like, "Where's Luke? Where's Luke? Where's Luke?" And that's all I cared about was where's Luke,
Yeah.
because that's what I've waited for since I was a kid. I saw Return of the Jedi is dreaming about, oh, what does Luke do next? So my whole life I'm like waiting, what's Luke gonna do next? And I've read the books and stuff. He did how exciting adventures and stuff. So that's the main thing I'm thinking about the whole time. Is where's Luke? So, but overall, I thought the movie was fine. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It was fine. So I was just kind of like, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I can handle this. Okay, so there's my rating for this one.
Yeah.
All right, I'll skip Last Jedi for right now. Let me get Miss Ridley off the screen. So then, Rise of Skywalker. I wasn't even gonna go see this in the theaters. It looked dumb, and I was like, it was like out for a month before I went and saw it. Some people said, yeah, you should definitely. It ends the story. You need to go see it. And finally, I was like, yeah, all right, I'll go see it. So, Rise of the Skywalker. Here's my Daisy Ridley rating for this one. It's not great. It's like, what are you doing? What is this? So that's my that is my Daisy Ridley rating of Rise of Skywalker. It is just not. It's a mess, and we already described why it's a mess. And just tweaking a couple little things, you could have made this serviceable. Oh, we didn't even talk about the final scene of the movie where I wanted to throw something at the screen.
Oh, that's right, Rey Star Wars.
There was a wrestler named the Big Boss Man back in the 80s. And when he went over, he was in WWF. When he went over to WCW, they couldn't use that name anymore because WWF had the rights to it. So he came out there and he goes, "My name's Ray Trailer." And they went, "Ray who?" So every time I see Ray in that scene, that's what pops in my head. Ray who? So at the end where she goes, "Oh, I'm a Skywalker." I'm like, no, you're not. I wanted to throw something at the screen. I was like,
Yeah.
And that's the other problem with this movie series is the Palpatines win at the end. The Skywalkers are wiped out at the end of this movie. So Rise of Skywalker.
I mean, I didn't get to say this. It should have been the Trevorrow script. I love that script.
It's a much better script from what I've seen. I haven't read all of it. I just kind of saw the main points, and I was like, yeah, that would be a more interesting movie. But again, that has to do with all the behind the scenes shenanigans of Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, when I went and saw Last Jedi, I didn't know. When I saw the trailers, I was kind of like, I don't know what to think about this. I'm seeing Luke, that's cool, but the trailers heavily implied that Rey was going to go to the dark side. It was all in the trailers of him putting out his hand to her, and kind of like this "join me" moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very curious about that going into this. I was curious about Luke and that. So I sat through the film, and when I went home after seeing Last Jedi, it was a very weird feeling. It was like I've seen some Star Wars movies I didn't care for, the prequel movies. I still enjoyed watching them. This is different. And I could not go to sleep that night. I literally slept less than an hour that night. I could not stop thinking about this movie. And it finally hit me. I don't like this movie at all. and my brain did not know how to process this because it had never happened for me not to like something with Star Wars in front of it, And so let me go through my thoughts on Last Jedi. Okay. So here is our. Was that the one I used earlier?
No.
Okay, that's a different one. All right. This is my thoughts on Last Jedi. And so last night I was going to write down 3 or 4 things, and then I just kept adding to the list, and I couldn't go to sleep again. I was like, this stupid movie, it drives me crazy. So let me start with this. Force Awakens. Like I said earlier, the whole movie, there's this underlying mystery of where's Luke? Where's Luke? What's he going to do? Is he going to save the day? Where's Luke? And the movie ends, here's Luke. What's going to happen? Tune in next time to find out. And it gets you all excited. And then you get to Last Jedi. Rey walks up to Luke. And he just throws lights over his head. And it's like Ryan Johnson just farts right in your face and says, ha ha, check this out. I'm going to do the opposite of what you want. And then like the MTV Jackass music starts playing like, dun, 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 dun. And that's how the rest of the movie feels like. It's just like whatever you're hoping for, Ryan Johnson's going to do the opposite of it because I'm deconstructing Star Wars and I'm going to subvert your expectations. And that's cool sometimes when you do that. But for the last movie to make all these mysteries so important, and then you get this one, and then he's just like, yeah, Snoke, who cares? Rey's parents don't matter. None of that matters. You know, you were concerned about Finn almost dying at the end of the movie. He's fine. He's gonna make a joke as he jumps out the Sarlacc pit, or not the Sarlacc pit, the Bacta tank. He's fine. Don't look. Is this silly? Ha ha ha. And then you're like, oh, is Kylo severely injured? Is he going to start becoming like Darth Vader? Nah, he's fine. He's got a little scar on his face. Don't worry about it. And it's like there was so much miscommunication between what J.J. Abrams was doing and what Ryan Johnston was doing. Is there's no, like, the connective tissue is doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
It does not fit at all. So, and this movie fails fundamentally as part of a trilogy. As the second part of the trilogy, it should have continued the story, pick up the dangling plot threads from the first movie, resolve those, amplify the stakes, and end on some type of cliffhanger to set up the last movie. It fails at all of that. It feels like Ryan Johnson's like, oh, I want to do my own trilogy. I'm just going to cram all that into one movie. And that's, this is going to be my movie. I'm going to do what I want. And the 2 points I point out that, sorry, I get very frustrated with this movie. I'm going to start stuttering and everything. When the Snoke throne room battle happens and they fire the lightsaber, I was like, oh, well, this is the end of the movie. And then the movie goes on for like another 45 minutes. And I was like, what? There's another act to this movie? That should have been the end of your movie. What is going on? And it feels like, oh, here's the next movie in my little trilogy. They're going to go fight on the salt planet. And I'm just like, no. This should have ended on some type of cliffhanger with Kylo Ren and Rey's confrontation. What are you doing? And that's just how I feel through the whole thing. Is it felt like he just kept cramming more and more stuff into the movie, and there's stuff like you just did not need. Okay, I'm rambling all over the place. Let me go back and slow down. Luke there's parts of the Luke scenes I like, and there's parts that I don't like. Like if you had fleshed out that scene where he's with him and Kylo Ren, like give hints that he's, show Kylo Ren doing up to stuff where he's looking at books he shouldn't be, that like Sith books and stuff, and Luke keeps catching him. Now he's suspecting, and then he pulls a lightsaber on him. That would make a little bit more sense. But it just kind of like, I've got this bad feeling, and it, I don't know. That I find frustrating. The whole movie is very jokey. The opening scene where Poe does a Yo Mama or whatever it was, I can't remember now.
It was a Yo Mama joke.
That it's funny, but it doesn't belong in Star Wars. I'm sorry. It does not belong in Star Wars.
It definitely felt Marvel-ish.
Yes. The jokes in this, all the jokes feel very Marvel-ish in this movie. And the one point I was trying to get to earlier when I kind of lost my mind, the stupid broom kid at the end, that feels like the end of a trilogy. That's the type of scene you would end your trilogy with, like, oh, there's a hope there's going to be a new generation, and, we're going to, after this whole saga's over, there's still hope. There's gonna be another kid falling in their steps, and it's gonna be awesome. That, if you want to end episode 9 with that, or for, something, I guess. I just, the broom kid drives me crazy. Let's see. Kylo smashing his awesome helmet, his dome. It's like you're setting up all this stuff in Force Awakens about him being obsessed with Vader, and then he just, no, I'm not doing it this movie. It's like Rian Johnson's like, no, we're not doing that. It's just like, no, you set that up in the first movie. You have to follow through on that. And this happens over and over in this movie, where everything they set up in Force Awakens, he just throws in the trash over and over and over again. So, let's see. When I was watching the movie, I felt like, and this is the way the movie was, the shot after the what's her name, the Admiral Holo, the Holo maneuver. I felt like the what they call the First Order. I felt like they were decimated at that point. Like they had hardly anybody left, and I felt like the rebellion had been decimated. Like at the end of the movie, I feel like there's nobody left on either side. And then you start Rise of Skywalker, and all of a sudden there's this huge army again. I'm like, didn't she just decimate like a huge part of their fleet? It's just it's a frustrating middle part of this trilogy for me. I like all the Kylo Ren and Rey stuff up to a point, up until they're fighting over the lightsaber, and then I just I don't like that. From then on, I don't like it. I don't like all the Canto stuff. The Canto stuff is a mess. I don't like. There's just a lot of stuff I don't like. Mm-hmm. the endless chase through space, it gets repetitive. It's boring. People leave the chase. People rejoin the chase. Oh, and then earlier we were being very supportive of Rose's actress. The scene where she crashes into Finn is so stupid, especially after you just saw Admiral Halo do what he was about to do. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. So I'll say this in defense of Last Jedi. If Force Awakens if the other 8 movies did not exist, and this was the only movie in the story, I would say it's not a bad movie. But as it being part of the 9 films, it's terrible. So that is where I come to on this. So is it better than Force Awakens?
Yes.
Parts of it? Parts of it are? I think I could watch Force Awakens by itself and I'd be fine. If I didn't watch the rest of the sequel trilogy. But no, I can't. I gotta say, Last Jedi is not better than Force Awakens. If it was by itself, like I said, if it was by itself and the other 8 movies did not exist, and I wasn't thinking about Luke's past characterizations, then yeah, it's probably an okay movie. But for it to be, like I said, part of the whole saga, it does not work. As bad as Attack of the Clones is, it does its job of setting up, of getting you from Phantom Menace to Revenge of the Sith. Doesn't do a great job of it, but it is, as they're building up the Empire, Anakin loses his limb, all this stuff is, and they have to get married. All this stuff is setting up the final act. This movie does a really poor job of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's part of our, and that's where we disagree. So
yeah. It's definitely one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
But again, as we said at the beginning, if you love these movies, awesome. More power to you. I want
someone to defend Rise of Skywalker the way I defended Last Jedi. I want someone to do that. I can't. I'm not the one to do that. But
so if you love Rise of Skywalker, you want to pop in the comments, say why you love it. Awesome. you know, like I said at the beginning, you may have people that just now joining us, you may have missed us say this. If we have different movie tastes, that's awesome. If you come to me and say I can't stand Star Wars, cool. That's
Mhm.
your opinion.
Yeah.
We're allowed to have different opinions, and we can still be friends, and that's awesome. So I just my I used to be a humongous Star Wars fan. And as the years have gone on, I still love it, but it's not the same. It's kind of same thing with the Marvel movies. I can miss a Marvel movie if I don't think it's gonna matter. So like they could make a Star Wars movie and I'd be like, yeah, I don't need to see that. You know, there's
Yeah.
several of the cartoons I've missed, you know. So
I'll still like if anybody wants it. I am currently compiling a list of uh, episodes that matter in the Clone Wars.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get with you on
Yeah,
that list
yeah.
eventually. Because I definitely need to watch like the episodes that take place around Revenge of the Sith and stuff. I
Oh,
need to
love
watch
those.
those.
Oh, have
I
you not like the Mandalore stuff? Have you not seen it?
I quit when Ahsoka left the Jedi.
Oh,
You know what I'm
okay.
talking- I quit. So
Yeah, you're getting towards the end there. Oh, so
yeah,
you missed right before they explained Sifo-Dyas.
yeah, and there's like it's weird with Clone Wars. I've seen most of season one. I've missed most of the Boba Fett, Cad Bane stuff, and then I like come and go. So like there's parts I've seen and parts I haven't seen. So
Yeah. Um, Slowly but surely, though, the more that comes out with Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, the more it's like the whole series matters
yeah, yeah,
because
and I think that that's
Dave
gonna
Filoni.
it's kind of like reading One Piece. It's like, oh, that story didn't matter, and then you get further, like, oh, that story definitely mattered.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, let us know what in the comments what you think. Is Caleb right? Am I wrong? I get passionate about Last Jedi. I start rambling because the movie just frustrates me.
Mhm.
And I don't think I've revisited any of these movies since I saw in theater, except for maybe I've probably seen Force Awakens a couple times.
I saw Force Awakens a couple times in theaters, and then I've seen a lot. I've seen Last Jedi quite a few times, and I think I've only seen Rise of Skywalker twice. I saw it once in theaters, and then whenever it came out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, my family haven't seen all of them, so they've talked about sitting down and watching all Star Wars movies. So if they want to do that, I'll take the hit and I'll watch this movie again. But
Hey, you know, you don't know. Maybe with what I've said, maybe it opens your mind a little bit. Who knows?
who knows? I doubt it, but who knows? All right. So let's move on to our final segment. He made me do it.
Yeah,
This is
hopefully this will be one that we agree on.
This is part of the show where we take turns, make each other either watch a movie, read a book, play a game, whatever, read some comic books, and see if the other person likes it. So far, we've both been very nice in picking things that we love.
Mhm.
Eventually, we're going to start running out of stuff we love, and it's going to get ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So last week, Caleb asked me to watch Free Guy, which I had not seen. This is the movie with Ryan Reynolds, and we're going to go into full spoilers right now. Basically, he is a NPC, a non-playable character in a video game, but that's like Fortnite or like Grand Theft Auto or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I want to call it a glitch, but some type of programming in the game that's making him start to have free will, his own thoughts, and he's starting to break away from the regular game programming and develop his own AI. And he falls in love. He falls in love with one of the. I guess she was a programmer. She
Yes.
served some part in the development
Yeah.
of this game.
She developed the game engine for a game that was not this game. However, the game engine was stolen by Taika Waititi.
Yeah, it was the building blocks for this game. He built the new game off of that one, and then tried to hide the fact.
It's a very, honestly, surprisingly a complicated, corporate espionage plot in a way.
And so I'll say this: I love this movie.
Yes.
I've been watching a lot of. There's a channel, Matt McMuscles, and
Yes, I
he
love Matt
does
McMuscles.
he does what's it called?
What happened?
What happened? Where he goes through video games that failed and gives you the whole history of what happened behind the scenes. And it felt like a lot of what I was watching was the type of stuff that happens on What Happened. I mean, there were some parts that was like, okay, that's not how that would work. But for the most part, a lot of it about this clueless developer and the programmers and the lackeys, all that felt very real. I do feel like the movie borrowed a lot from the Lego Movie and Truman Show and even Doki Doki Literature Club, which I don't know if you're familiar with that game.
I am not.
Oh, I smell he made me do it coming on that one. Do me a favor. Don't learn anything about that game.
It's a game.
It's almost like a visual novel type game.
Okay.
And
what's it for?
Just PC. Actually, it came out on Switch. I take that back. It did come out on Switch. It was like a huge bestseller.
Okay.
But it's better if you know nothing about it at all.
All right. I was about to look it up, but now I won't.
It's basically a take on a Japanese dating simulator with 4 girls that are trying to get your attention. And you are in a literature club where you write poetry to each other.
Okay.
Sounds terrible, right?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
Okay.
I don't want to tell you anything about it.
You have piqued my interest.
But that's not going to be your assignment for this week. But I think you could play it through in 1 week. I don't know. I don't know if we could.
That might be one that I just have to work through, and then it'll be its own show.
Okay. So, all right, we'll put that on the back burner. But
all right.
I think it costs money on Switch. I think it maybe on PC it was free.
Okay.
But anyhow,
Free Guy.
Yeah. So go back to Free Guy. I thought this was great. Just a really fun movie. Very accurate to Fortnite and that whole world, the YouTubers, all that stuff.
Oh man, whenever like Ninja and Pokemon showed up, I'm like, oh man, this is I love this movie.
Yeah, Jacksepticeye and all that. It was fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think because I've still got Star Wars on the brain. Sorry.
Well, speaking of Star Wars, the stuff at the end that involved Marvel and the lightsaber, that stuff was added at the very last minute before they shipped it out.
Yeah, and I heard that they literally called what's his name, Chris Evans on the phone. Like, can you do us a favor? He's like, I've got 10. So
there we go. Yeah, probably lost you for a second.
Yeah. So really fun movie. If it's kind of like our modern day Tron almost.
Right. Yeah. No. And so the one exciting thing about this for me is, so I watched this movie. I really didn't expect a whole lot. I had people like tell me that it was great, but it wouldn't have been one that I just threw on. It's something that I was over at my parents' house having dinner, and so they're like, "We want to watch a movie. We'll watch this." Like, yeah, sure. And I loved it. It makes me want to watch The Adam Project, which just came out on Netflix, which is Ryan Reynolds with the same director, Sean Levy.
Mm-hmm.
And Deadpool 3 is being directed by Sean Levy.
Yeah.
And so like that really excites me because like he's worked with this director before, and it's a movie that I love.
Yeah, and they seem to have good chemistry. Yeah. The guy from Stranger Things, Steve, I can't think of his real name.
Joe
Carey. Yeah, he's great in this.
Oh, so here's the thing you wouldn't think about, because a lot of times in movies like this, you know, in the game it's exciting, but then once you're out of the game, it's not as cool. I am just as enthralled when we're out of the game as when we're in the game.
Yeah, all that stuff is great. Just a very well made movie.
Taika Waititi's the bad guy.
Yeah. When the movie ended, I said that was perfect. leave this franchise alone. Do not do a sequel. And of course, I read they're doing a sequel. I'm like, ah, don't do that.
And I think one of my favorite parts about the movie, actually, because this movie actually really gets you in the feels, like hardcore. Whenever he's talking to his security card best friend, and he's like, well, what if we're not real? And he says, what does it matter? This moment is real. And I loved that. And then at the end, whenever programmer chick and Steve are friends again, and like it's obvious that he's just been in love with this girl,
Yeah.
and then he asks, if she wants to go coffee, she's like, oh, I'm too busy, and then he walks out, and then my whole family were like, no. And so then whenever it was a Guy who was like, you can't be with me, you belong out there.
Yeah.
And then the whole speech that Steve gives, I call it, that's not his name in the movie, but he's Steve. The speech that he gives on video about how in love he is with this girl. Oh man, that gets to me. And she runs, and it's one of those cheesy romantic comedy moments that like actually really gets me. And then
I thought they were going to get hit by a car at the end. I was like, please don't do this. And then when it cut to Free Guy, I thought he was going to get hit by a car. They didn't do it on either. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
People do not stand in the middle of the road and hug and kiss. Just don't do it.
Right.
Okay?
Right. But no, I loved all that. And I thought Taika Waititi, honestly, he doesn't have that much screen time, but he steals every scene he's in, no matter what movie he's in ever.
Yeah. He's great. And if for you all who don't know, he is Korg in the Thor and the Marvel movies, the Rock guy.
He is also IG-88 in Mandalorian Season 1.
Yeah.
He also directed Ragnarok and What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a cool guy. I'm not a fan of Ragnarok, but I like Taika Waititi as a person.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And as an actor. So I'm super glad you what did you watch this with the fam? What did the fam think?
Fortunately, my kids were not home, but I did watch it with my wife. She loved it. I like the dude at the end, the big boss. He had to fight.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It was fun.
Oh man, I love it because that's such a corporate thing to do.
Right.
To, like take a popular character and then we gotta like make this dude jacked.
Right.
And like emo and hardcore.
He's just got the little blue shirt tattoo on him.
Right. Oh man, the blue shirt tattoo, that killed me. I loved it.
One of my kids is very obsessed with Fortnite, and they love buying skins on there. I was like, look, it's just watch this movie. Watch how evil it is.
Right.
So
we don't need more V-Bucks.
Yeah, and this movie, you alluded to it earlier, it's a lot about AI and do they have rights and feeling stuff. And I think that these are questions that as a society we may have to be dealing with at some point. So it's very interesting. I love this film. Was not expecting like as much as I did.
Yeah. I'm glad. Honestly, I had a feeling that this would be totally your bag. And that's why I wanted you to watch it, because I mean I love this movie. I didn't expect anything. I mean, I expected it to be decent because I had people tell me it was good, but like I'm not a fan of Ready Player One, the book or the movie.
Yeah.
And so whenever you got another movie that's like it, and Wreck-It Ralph is also not my bag either. Even though like I acknowledge that that's a good kids movie, it's just not for me. But
I have so many problems with Wreck-It Ralph.
But Free Guy is like whenever you have all these movies that are referencing other things and it's like a video, it's what I've been waiting for.
I feel like Free Guy is it the best video game movie? It's up there.
Yeah. Well, so you have to take two things into account. There are video game movies and then movies that are based on video games.
Right.
And so I think like easily, this is the best video game movie because like, what do you have? Ready Player One, Wreck-It Ralph, Spy Kids 3.
Right.
You know?
Cloak and Dagger is pretty good if you've never seen Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger, yeah, I do like that one. War Games, Tron.
Yeah.
But like when it comes, like I love Free Guy more than any of those. Now, when it comes to video, like movies based on video games versus this, that's it probably is better. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's great. If you have not seen it, I think it's on HBO Max and Disney Plus for some reason.
And Hulu. It's on a lot.
Okay, so it must be some weird deal behind the scenes there.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you where I think we watched this on Disney Plus, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Cool. So I will say this: this weekend, a movie's coming out that we're both pretty excited about.
Yes, it's
everything,
great reviews.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. I am a little hesitant because it is rated R, and I know some of the past movies these guys have done, and they could get a little crude. So that's the only thing that's kind of holding me back. But I'm very excited to go see this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie about the multiverse, and Michelle Wu that's her name, right? Michelle
Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh. I'm sorry, Michelle Yeoh is jumping from different realities, where one reality she's owns a laundromat, or she's an actress, or she knows kung fu, or this or that, or whatever. And the trailer looks insane, and so we're very excited about it. So my pick this week for He Made Me Do It is a similar movie, kind of similar, but not quite. And that is The One, starring Jet Li.
Yes, surprisingly, I have never seen this movie.
It should be on Netflix.
It is, yeah, I checked.
This is a movie also about the multiverse, but a little bit more Highlandery than what's coming out. I will tell you, it's not the greatest film of all time, but it's very enjoyable, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I love kung fu movies. It's probably my bag.
Yeah, and it's fun. We'll talk about it next week. Jet Li's kind of fun in this movie.
I'm kind of excited because like I'll watch this and then I'll watch Shang-Chi again and I'll notice even more.
Yeah. So for those participating at home, The One is on Netflix if you want to watch it, and then join us next week when we discuss it. But yeah, it's a fun little kung fu movie, a little sci-fi mixed in. And I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Yeah.
Next week, our show will be about movies that everybody loves, but you can't stand.
Yeah.
So that one will be surprising. We'll have it's kind of our hot takes episode next week.
Which is insane because I've had nothing but hot takes this entire series. Because I love Iron Man 3 and I love The Last Jedi, and now I'm going to crap on movies that people love.
Yeah, we might lose some fans next week. So remember what I've been saying the whole episode is everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and we might have different opinions about movies, and there might be some surprising opinions. There's one movie I'm going to trash next week that the internet absolutely loves, so that'll be interesting. So tune into that next week. That'll be Sunday at 6:00 Eastern, right here on Pop Culture Shark on YouTube. I've been Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.